Hear that? What shape is that? That's right. That's the shape of water.
Welcome to our Shape of Water podcast, The Unknown Film Enthusiasts. We all got to see it very recently, and we took a little bit about it today. So, my name is Zach.
My name's Dan.
And my name's Nick.
Very good. So, what do we think about love in the shape of something that can conform to any kind of shape? Whether it be a 6'8"
That's the
water
metaphor,
monster.
Zach, okay?
I didn't think that one of the best love stories I'd see in any modern movie would happen between a woman and a fish man.
In
But
2017, I expected that.
Did I cry several times in my theater full of old women at 11 a.m. on a Friday? It touched me everywhere it should have, and this is completely unironic.
It touched you everywhere it should have. I will say, too...
Just like water, it got into every crevice.
I will say, too, it's funny. The theater that we saw it in today was absolutely... It was packed.
It was packed,
And,
yeah.
you know, we
That's surprising.
Midday,
Yeah, 'cause
after
it's-
lunch, yeah.
I guess everyone was really looking forward to, what was that PlayStation 4 game?
What?
one that-
Death Stranding?
PT.
Oh, PT. Oh, wow. They were definitely
PT.
lied to.
Pretty good movie, am I right?
I do think it's interesting that we do talk a little bit about Guillermo del Toro and why this film was made, because this is something that I did not know going into the film, but I thought was very interesting about the impetus for why this was created to begin with.
Well, one thing that most people know about Guillermo del Toro is he doesn't like the studio system. A lot of his movies, I believe it was Mimic or Species, I can't remember which one was him, but basically the studio forced him to have a different ending, make it be less violent, basically alter his vision, and he wasn't a fan of that. Later on in life, his Hellboy movies would be canceled. He would start writing and producing the Hobbit trilogy and then leave, making our Lord and Savior Peter Jackson, Santa Claus from Hot Fuzz, have to direct these three atrocious movies. And then he was given the reins to his own Creature from the Black Lagoon movie, which then turned into a 50s sci-fi romance about communism, love, not abusing nature, and basically understanding yourself through someone else. And a big part of this movie and what stuck out to me so well was just the concept of, it was in the trailers, and when it happened in the movie, I completely lost it, was just when Sally Hawkins, who does a fantastic job in this movie, just says he doesn't know that I'm incomplete. It's just that, because it shows that I think another big part of this movie is love has no boundaries, and she's finally found her perfect thing and
companion,
and it's just so touching, and I feel like all I'm gonna say is extremely positive things, because I loved every second
Like, it really
of this
just
movie.
makes you kind of, like, step back and think, like,
Yeah.
okay, like, you might be in this position and you might not even know it, you know? Like, if you're out there kind of, like, looking for someone, whether you found it or not, like, it's just saying love is, like, it's understanding, but it's, I'm going too deep right now, but,
No, the idea of understanding something beyond just like what society like the whole thing where she was feeling incomplete. That's not because she herself is actually incomplete. It's because that she's been told, and very directly at that point in the movie, that you can't speak. I bet you can squawk or whatever, and like that's just completely demeaning to her self-worth until she realizes no.
She's abused. She's belittled. Just every bad thing that can be said about her is said. And he's the only person that doesn't judge. He wants to know her. He wants to learn what she has to show. And it's the only real connection she has, other than her neighbor, who also has some things that would keep him out of the public eye. But we'll get into that later, perhaps.
I think, well, if this idea of love and belonging and acceptance is a central point of the film, I think that's the one major theme that's going to be prevalent in this conversation, is that even like the next door neighbor, I'm forgetting his name right now, but his whole, like, initially she is supporting of him trying to basically put the moves onto this pie man,
Pie guy.
this pie bartender guy, and she supports him, and she she
call
goes,
him a pie tender.
Yes.
Welcome back now.
And she supports him because she knows that this is who he is, and if this is a person that she loves and respects, then she will be there to support him. And then in that scene where he has to go to present his artwork to the advertising agency, I was at first very confused about, like, well, her saying, oh, well, if we're not going to work together, then we're nothing anymore. And he was reiterating that same idea of partnership doesn't have to be intimate in that way. The partnership that they had was meaningful in an almost equal way to when the relationship that she would then go on to develop with the Fishman. Because even though it's different, it's important to have the supporters in your life in the same way that it's important to have the people that you share your life with. And I don't know, that was thinking back to that theme of just partnership and relationships that go beyond just, this one intimate relationship between woman and fish. There was a lot of stuff in there that was kind of analyzing societal values. And even like the 1950s film, it's important to have more, there's the element of racism was very prevalent.
Yes.
And the fact that she was best friends for 10 plus years with an African American lady speaks tremendously to how having value in people that support you and want to, preserve and help you is essential. It doesn't matter any of the societal stigmas that are thrown at you. It's the actual relationship that is the most important thing. So you're right. This is a fantastic film, and I really do appreciate it. And it's very powerful in that sense. Man, you're right. Okay, 10 out of 10. Yeah. Best movie of 2017. And it's about a fish, man.
Yeah, and it's just, I went in, when I first saw the trailers, I was like, this looks interesting, and I trust Guillermo del Toro, because I love Pan's Labyrinth. I think Hellboy's very interesting. I didn't like Pacific Rim, but that one's a little different for him. But it was just, there was something about it that just looked interesting. And then initial reviews was astounding. Everyone, universally loved. There was Oscar hype for Sally Hawkins's portrayal of this mute woman, and just, it had everything going for it. And I went in, and I was like, I need to temper my expectations, but I couldn't because I was so excited. And I sat there the whole time. I went through smiles, crying, and when I walked out of the theater, I made eye contact with the person behind me as I was leaving. We were both smiling ear to ear, and it was just, it's very rare that you get that sort of experience in a theater, especially with something that seems so niche to begin with. Because, obviously, like my mom was like, is that the fish love story?
A lot of people look at this and could potentially say, oh, like it's a Beauty and Beast type thing, but that was not it at all. It was something far different from that really made you think.
It never claims to be smarter than you, but it always offers something if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
And talk about a film that really just will take you back in time. Like this film took you to the past with the setting. The temporal setting of this film was fantastic.
It was very cool. Like, the 1950s, 60s, or whatever time period is like. It is. I don't know, these period pieces, like, we were walking out, I was like, oh, man, that's, like, Fallout. Kind of, like,
I couldn't help but think, just looking at, like, the tiles and the shape, and, like, there was a bunch of machines in there, and I was like, I don't know if that does anything, but boy, does it look neat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what was so kind of special about it, because it did have that fantasy, or science fiction fantasy element to it that made it, and, of course, when your central character, or one of your central characters, is what is, like, this missing link kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
It was... it was, and also talking about, I think it's very cool to see very much 1950s, like the Ruskies are,
exactly.
invading.
Yeah. The second anything happens, it must have been a communist strike force, and it in the movie
10 plus men.
The movie's not without its humor. It has many good moments like that, and just. It must have been a 10-person strike force, and it's the janitor, a scientist, and another maid sneak them out through a truck, and it's wonderfully done. Just there's not a misused moment for comedy or just true passion. Like it seemed like every single second of this was planned out to a T, and it was gorgeous. Standout moments from both of you.
I want to talk about a moment of humor that I very much enjoyed. I think we both very much enjoyed, is when you have this fish out of water experience, and you have a 7-foot tall fish in your living room kind of thing, and he's been equated to this idea of, oh, he must be an Amazonian god or something like that. And then you have him eating a cat and the comet, and then he like gets spooked and runs out, and he like scratches a guy, and the comment was, he's like, I can't remember the exact quote now.
He said to
Eliza.
Thank you. He says to Eliza, he's like, oh, like, he ate Pandora, but that's okay because he's an Amazon god, and maybe gods eat cats.
It's just it never felt dismissive. It never felt like, oh, we just need to kind of explain this away for this reason. There was a sense of mysticism, but it was also very believable. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a weird thing to almost compare it to, but it felt a little bit like E.T. We're just getting to know and connect with this being that it may be different from you, but is more similar in ways that you could ever think of, and just like the friendship that's formed between them, and even obviously like the healing powers, which, spoilers. Yeah. But and that, I feel like that could have very much been, oh god, it's just another one of these. Like, it didn't feel like it had its purpose, but it completely paid off. And it wasn't like he's going out there healing everyone. It's just the people that
Jesus Fish.
Yeah, he wasn't Jesus Fish. He was just a little bit special fish.
Exactly.
Another huge standout moment was like after Eliza, right?
Yep.
After Eliza's character and Fishman's relationship kind of developed, and they were able to further their relationship and take the next step. This film did not beat around the bush. It answered questions that the audience was going to have, where her best friend, the other Zelda, the other janitor, like, she's like, oh, like, so how does it all work? When you were getting down to business or whatever, like, they straight up were like, we are gonna put this in the movie, and I thought that was great. Like,
and because there's nothing's taboo. Everything that can be shown will be shown, and there are points where, like, oh, if this was a movie made in the 50s, I can see where they would have cut this out, or they wouldn't have talked about this. But every single subject you could think about is addressed. And it's not to the point of, well, this whole movie's exposition. It's just everything feels real, which is weird in a romance movie between a fish and a woman. But every part of it feels so real and so genuine. And I feel like that amplifies the relationship part of it. Because if the whole movie felt fantastical, it'd be hard to believe that love could find a way. Mm-hmm. But the fact that everything is put in such a good perspective and everything feels genuine, it takes away any bit of doubt from it. And
the fact that, like, it built a relationship, like she was bringing him eggs to eat and, like, not flowers, and, like, it's the little things like that like, made that relationship unique and special. And it doesn't make you, like, kind of overlook, like, other relationships that may seem questionable, or, like, there may other relationships in society that, like, stand out. It's just, like, you go into this movie completely accepting of the fact, by the end of it, that Eliza's character was truly in love with this fishman, which is incredible in this film, and I absolutely love it.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, well, is, like, in terms of, like, the believability of it, like, once you accept the whole premise of, oh, well, there's this, this fish creature. I don't know how they did it, but the effects for the creature itself were absolutely insane. It's so believable and lifelike. There was not ever one point I was like, oh, that's a little CGI. It was, like, I didn't have that personally.
Doug Jones is phenomenal. He was Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies. He was the fawn in Pan's Labyrinth. And the whole time you're thinking, how did they make this prop? How did they CGI this thing? But it's always just him contorting his body in these ways. And it's like the motion capture in the Planet of the Apes movies, where if you watch them, you're like, I can see how this person has taken every step to become this character. Mm-hmm. And there's not a point where it feels like, oh, a guy in a suit. It genuinely feels like there's this creature, from the way he walks, the way he moves his hands, the way he moves his eyes, the way he reacts to everything. It just, it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look CG. It fits. Mm-hmm.
It does not at all look like, the dinosaurs animation from a long time ago.
And
we did some Disney's dinosaurs where they put lemurs and iguanodons on the same island.
Iguanodons. It's funny because just thinking of this film, beginning with it too, it's like, you go in. No, I feel like you kind of know what to expect, kind of, in the same way, like, oh, it's gonna be this. It's literally a love story, but then you look at the elements of it. It's actually like more of the components of what does it mean to have a like nice healthy relationship between two people that are not necessarily supposed to be together.
And like you see the difference between Michael Shannon's character and his wife, and how he's basically, this is what lovemaking is. It's I get it. I cover your mouth. I don't care if my fingers are bleeding on your face. This is for me.
Yep.
And then you see the passionate lovemaking between Eliza and Fishman, and it's so odd that it works.
It's more human than the humans you actually see.
And the other relationships you see are Zelda and her husband.
Yep.
He's neglectful. He doesn't care. He only gets involved when it betters him.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the roommate who is just trying and failing.
Yep.
And just the comparisons between them, and you just see how everything relates and how it can be different but all the same at the same time. And it's just seeing the trailers, I was like, I don't know what is left, almost, because I feel like they've shown me, well, they're going to break it out of there, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. I'm assuming at some point someone's going to get hurt. But there was never a point in the movie I was like, oh, here's this part. I was just sitting there glued, my eyes were glued to the screen thinking, oh my god, I'm amazed that I'm watching this.
I think a huge part of this, like you said, Zach, before, you almost know what to expect, but at the same time, you expect the relationship to build in the way, a love story, is normally built, but you see it in such a way where it's like in a new light with this fishman and, a woman. And so in that case, like, it's not like, it's not a typical story that's been told before where it's like, oh, hey, here's the flowers and chocolate, or here's this, here's that. It's unique.
And because it's so authentic, or it comes off as like extremely authentic. And I just like also too, I think it's one thing that I also did very much enjoy about this movie is like when she was sitting down having like the final dinner before she was gonna set up to release him the next day. And it goes into the I can't like what that number, I can't remember.
Yeah, you don't know how much I love you or how much I miss you, and it like that was simultaneously beautiful and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And like I can see some audience members like they were like, well, how's she talking?
Yeah.
Which the same issue with La La Land when they go into the what if sequence, and I'm like, you're watching a movie.
Yep.
Shut up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so beautiful.
Yep.
Like.
Yeah. And it was cool. The reason I think I really liked it is because it was so awesome to see a movie go from a like motion picture movie to a stage performance.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh my gosh, it's like watching a musical right now, because just everything about that, how it's like it went from very much the movie picture frame of we're at a dinner table to then the spotlight slowly creeping in, so you realize, wait a second, there's something different going on here, and then it erupts into like the entire like the musical number. I was like, oh my god, and it's like
a brilliant way, just like able to tell the audience like how this character is feeling right now.
And just the progression from when she's mouthing it to when the words come to when she's singing to when she's dancing, and then just brought back, and you could just see the emotion go from like sad and despair to pure joy back into sadness and realization of what's happening, and it's just so well done. And maybe it's not fun to hear three people just say how much they love a movie, but goddamn,
I will
was this
say,
an amazing movie.
Now, one thing, like, I just said earlier that, you kind of know what you expect going in. I was kind of interested as to why they did, like, it's kind of one of the things, like, it makes sense to me now, but, like, I would have liked to see, what does Liza's underwater world look like now that she has her fish best friend?
That's not important.
I know it's not important, but going away from the theater, I was like, and it's mentioned earlier too, which again, I think they're just trying to throw the seeds out there. It's like she was an orphan found by a river, you know, and then it's like,
as soon as they showed the scars, I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is, because there have actually been cases and incidents where like people are born with gills.
Oh.
And like, and a lot of times it just needs to like it's corrective surgery and then they can fix it.
Oh, get out of here!
God.
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
that's
like
be born,
a thing that
you
could
can be
happen?
born with the wrong respiratory stuff. Because
No
a lot of babies do, in order to be able to breathe, you need that. But then they generally heal up and you don't get scars and things that can be opened back up. But yeah.
Okay.
But was that more just?
That's also just maybe filling in a little bit of like, oh, well, have a little fantasy. Take your own imagination and go wild with it.
Yeah.
I also will say, the way the Doctor Dimitri was portrayed, I absolutely loved the fact that in this 1950s like U.S. versus communist Russia film, this character came in who was, he said, I forgot exactly how he says it, but he's like, I came to this country as a patriot, but as a scientist, like that I am here to better human knowledge by learning about something, but also not by. It's like, it was amazing at the naturalist perspective, where instead of him solving a problem by killing something, taking it apart like a car, and then trying to rebuild it, he was like, we need to take a moment to stop here, give me the necessary time to actually study something for what it is and how it is living. That is, and again, I think that's a huge nod to, right, like, that's in a lot of ways maybe more of a political statement of just saying, take your time and actually learn how something works before you decide to destroy it in the effort to understand it.
Exactly. And I also do like that there's no character that feels one note or one dimensional, because even Michael Shannon, who is almost pure evil, you see that, there's worry in his eyes because this is his first failure. You see him explaining to the general where he's like, if someone does all these things right all these years and you only focus on the one failure, is he a failure? And the general's basically like, you need to fix this, or yes, that will be your legacy. And it creates a person who's not just, I'm bad because I'm bad. And a lot of movies do suffer from that. And it's very interesting to see them humanize a character like that, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, it's making a character more than one dimension.
Yeah.
And it's just, from the scientists to Michael Shannon to everyone else, it was so good to see them portray every single person as a person.
Yeah. Like very much the idea of defining yourself over your failure after he was there for 15 years and he only failed once. Man, that's powerful. Man, I now want to go back and see this film again because it is such
I regret not seeing it a second time today. But I did get pretty far in Rock Band too. So
looks like
we have our ups and downs.
We all came out winners in the end.
Yeah.
So definitely high recommendations for this film. Before we end, I would like us to maybe make some predictions because this is coming out very close to when I think we're going to have more announcements for, Oscars and actual awards. Is this a reward-worthy film that will get recognized, or is it going to be a fish film that gets floundered?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but I definitely hope so. I hope this film does get some recognition.
Yeah.
I think the picture in this film is very good.
Yeah. It'd be amazing if it wasn't even up for special effects or makeup. I would hate to see that it wasn't. Also, I've seen a lot of movies with great leading actresses this year. Lady Bird, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and this. I would still love to see Sally Hawkins at least nominated. Frances McDormand should win, but that's just me. But yeah, it any sort of recognition like that would be appreciated, even screenplay or something, because it's a very well-made movie. It's very pretty, and it deserves all the praise it can get, in my opinion. Well, 10 out of 10, would fish again.
Thank you very much for listening.
Well, on that note, we'll go fishing.